Hi, and welcome to this video series on Android application development. I'm going to take you through the development of a very simple application, probably the simplest application that is not the default template for an Android device. And for that, we're going to open up our Android Developer Tools. Now, Android Developer Tools is based on Eclipse. We're going to select a workspace. All of our Android projects, all of our Java projects, in fact, should be kept in a separate workspace. So we're going to browse to a location, and then we're going to select a location to save our new workspace in. And I'm just going to choose Chapter 1 Video, and then create a new folder for the workspace to be housed in. And here I'm going to type in HelloWorld, create that folder, and then click Open, and then click OK. And now our Android Developer Tools will load. Now this Android Developer Tools is wrapped inside Eclipse. And so the new ADT contains an Eclipse wrapper and everything else. We're going to close the welcome screen. This contains a lot of good information that you should read. But we're just going to close this screen for now, and we'll get the main screen. And now we're going to right-click in the Package Explorer, and we're going to create a new Android application project. By the way, when you have to update the ADT, there is a menu option to update it within Eclipse. I have found that, at least for now, which is 21.1, that the update process doesn't really update everything. It is better to go back to developer.android.com and download the ADT fresh and install it fresh. So the application name here is going to be HelloWorld. And the project name, we'll keep that as HelloWorld. And I'm just going to use a package name of com.ebook.helloworld. I'm going to make the minimum required SDK Jelly Bean, API 17. That is the current top-level SDK. And I'm going to use a theme, the default theme. And then we'll click Next. I'm not going to create a custom launcher icon. If we keep this checkbox checked, you have the option to select a launcher icon for the application. Otherwise, it's going to give you a launcher icon that is just the default Android robot. So we'll uncheck that box. Everything else we'll leave checked. We want to create an activity for our application. We'll click Next. It's just a blank activity. Let's just use this blank activity. We have a couple of other options, a full screen activity or a master detail flow. But let's just leave this as a blank activity. We want to keep things simple for now. And then we'll click Next once again. And then we can leave these as defaults, main activity, and then the layout name is activity main, and then navigation type is none. So we'll click on Finish. And now a template will be used to create our application. And the first thing we're going to see is that there are a number of files. It will load the target in activitymain.xml, and that is the first file that will be opened by default. We have our manifest file down here, and then inside the source folder, inside our package, we have main.activity.java. So we're going to open that one up. Now here we have a couple of overridden methods. We can see that main activity is extending something called activity. Activities are the unit of user interface interaction within an Android application. So we've got an activity, and we've got a class based on activity, and we have a couple of methods of activity that are overridden. These are lifecycle methods, onCreate and onCreate options menu. We're not going to have an options menu, so we can delete this just to save a little space in our code. And then, of course, there's an import for that android.view.menu. We can delete that import because we're not going to use a menu. But onCreate is right here. Now, the combination of this XML file and this activity gives us our user interface. We can view the XML file as the view of our application. Main activity is the controller of our application. And of course, in this application, since it's just a simple hello world, we're not going to have a model. So we'll go to activity main, and the first thing we'll do is delete this hello world text. And then we're going to place another text, and we'll just center it in a view, kind of there. That's fine. And then we'll place a button here, and that's fine. And now we can look at these properties of these objects. The button will just change its text for now to say hi, and then we'll get rid of the text in text view and save. Now this is just telling us that we really shouldn't put in a hard-coded string. We should use a string resource, so that's fine. This is telling us that we can make the text selectable by saying text is selectable true. This is just a suggestion for us. For now, though, we want to see that this text view has an ID that is named TextView1. So we'll take a look at that when we look at our main activity. So we've saved this file, and now we'll go back to our Java file. And now we want to find TextView1. So we'll do that inside of the code that we're going to use to respond to our button touch. So we make this public, and then we return nothing from it, so it's void. And then we'll just call this on button touch. We want to pass in a view. All of these controls are actually subclasses of view. So we're going to pass in a view, and this will give us the control that was actually interacted with this on button touch method. And then we'll just, for now, have an empty method body. Now, it's telling us that it doesn't know what a view is. Well, if we go over to this tooltip, if we click it, we can see that it's asking us if we really want to import view. And that's exactly what we want to do. We don't want to tell it what a view is. We want the system to tell us what a view is. And of course, that silences that warning. Next thing we want to do is get a handle to our text view, because what we're going to do is set the text in the text view to hello world when the user touches the button. So for that, we're going to use a text view, and we can just call it TV. And then it's a view that we find by using that text view's ID, which is pretty simple. But we need to cast that to type text view. Whoops. And now we can use the find view by ID method, r.id. All of our IDs are kept in a file called r.java. And r.java contains all the IDs for all of the resources in our application. So r.id.textview1 is the ID we're looking for. So now we have a handle to our text view. Well, we've still got a warning here, and it's telling us that it doesn't know what a text view is. Well, again, if we select this, we have the option to import a text view. So we'll do that. Now it's telling us that we're not using TV. Well, we're going to fix that in a minute. The value of the local variable is never read, I believe is what it says. So now in our button touch handler here, we're just going to say TV.setText. TV text views have a text property. We're going to set the text, and we'll just set it to the character sequence hello, comma, world, exclamation point, semicolon, and we're done. The only thing left to do is to make this method happen when we touch the button. So let's save this code, go back to our XML, and in the button, we'll use a property, an attribute called Android onClick equal. And then, what was the name of our method again? On button touch, on BTN touch. So let's use that. And there are other ways to set up a button and click handler, but that's fine. And now we're done. When this button gets touched, this method will run, It will find our text view called TV, and it will set TV's text to Hello World. So now I'm going to start the run in the emulator. The first time you run something in the emulator and you click the run button, it'll say select a way to run Hello World. Well, we want to always run these as an Android application. So we'll click OK. And then the simulator will load, and that takes a while. So for now I'm going to pause this until that simulator loads up and we can see the effect of running the application. While the simulator is loading up, or the Emulator 64, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the emulator itself. In order to run an Android application within an emulator, we need to have a virtual device set up for that emulator. So if we go to Window, Android Virtual Device Manager, we can add an emulator. So we would click on New. Well, if we look at the edit settings for an emulator, we can see that the same thing, the same screen basically, that we would see if we clicked on New. So here I have an AVD name of level 17. This can be anything that we want. A device is a 480 by 800 HDPI, 4-inch WVGA. The target is API level 17. I want a hardware keyboard. I want to display a skin with the hardware controls. I've set up some memory options, and most of these other things we can keep at the default. And so that's how we set up an emulator. And when the application runs, it's going to actually look for an emulator that matches. So now the emulator is up, and it asks us in Android, in the ADT, whether or not we want to auto-monitor logcat. We should almost always monitor logcat, so we'll click on that. It tells us the intent in the console. It tells us the intent has been started. We'll monitor logcat. This is going to allow us to log out messages and also give us some system messages that are very important. So now we'll look at the emulator screen, and we'll see that we have yet to unlock the screen. So we'll just go ahead and do that as if it were a real phone. And then we have our Hello World application up and running. If we click on Say Hi, the text view says Hello World. So that's a very simple one activity, one layout, controller view application that we can create in just a few minutes on the Android platform using the ADT. All right. Thank you very much.